Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. My name is Zach Golden, and thank you all for joining us today. Today it's just going to be Lawrence and myself, so Lawrence, welcome.
Thanks for having me again on the RGV stream, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday.
Definitely, most definitely. Yeah, sorry everybody that we weren't able to do the show yesterday. It was a little bit of conflicting times on things, so still happy to be able to do the show today. And also we're going to have Astro Joe with us as always on questions and donations.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Starbase friends around the world. Let's rock and roll with episode 118.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, episode 118. We were, I think the last episode before the next launch, so that's going to be awesome. Take in the sights, and you know, I'm sure the launch site will look very different next week when we get the post-launch flyover. So I always love seeing the before and afters, even though things seem to be remaining relatively undamaged in between launches now, for the most part. So either way, it's still going to be exciting to see the launch next week. I wish I was able to watch it myself live, but I'm actually going to be at work, so I won't even be able to do commentary that day. But I'm sure y'all will enjoy it for me. With that, let us hop into the show. I actually want to check in with some shots at the Port of Brownsville that I thought were interesting. So actually, I guess this is Port Isabel, right? The for the LNG facility. So I haven't I don't think I've shown images of this in a while, so I know a lot of people kind of want to know the progress of that. And y'all can see they're still doing a ton of groundwork down here. But there was an image I saw pretty interesting down here. There's just a massive amount of drilling going on. So you got CFA drilling rigs all over the place down here. And you can see, like, zooming in here, they've got their piles in the ground. I don't know if these are actually piles, because this one is, y'all will see what I'm talking about here in a minute when we look at this one. Yeah, so here we got like all kinds of drilling rigs all over the place, drilling piles into the ground for all these foundations. And then you can see one down here. That is just crazy. So this is basically for a large tank. This is interesting because I'm, for the most part, I'm pretty sure they're only doing LNG here. So I'm guessing this would be one of their large commodities tanks, which there will be another one right here, it seems. And this is I can't tell if this is just like the start of a pile cap or if this is actually the pile cap, but I'm pretty sure that this is just like what they call the blinding layer. So they just basically flatten all this out and then pour their first layer of concrete and then construct a really large pile cap on top of this. I think that may be what's happening here. This may be rebar being laid out back here, but I can't really tell. But yeah, I just caught my eye when I was scrolling through the pictures yesterday. Okay, that must be rebar. You can see piles of it right here, curved piles of rebar. So that's going to be a lot of concrete. But over here in this area, we can see that they've already gotten started on building all their like large piping racks. So there's a bunch of underground pilings like all throughout these on these foundations, and then right here they're getting their first pipe rack set up, and they already got like piping set up so they can actually start installing all this stuff. So I think this is supposed to be a 6-year project. I could be wrong. I think we're in probably the end of the first year since they started it, so maybe 5 years left. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Somebody may correct me on that. I'm pretty sure it's a 6-year project. You don't happen to know that, Lawrence, do you?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not aware of how long the project is.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not going to be quick. Let's just say that. I'm actually, this is interesting. I think I may be able to slightly predict what's happening here. So I think you have, as I said, that large storage tank, and then I think there's going to be a large pipe rack going across here, and then wherever their terminal is, it'll probably lead to that. I don't think I have a larger image like zoomed out so you can see everything. I do not. But yeah, not a whole lot going on there. Just wanted to kind of touch on this area since a lot of people are curious about it. But yeah, let's go ahead and move back over to the Massie site. We have a ton to talk about this week. I don't know. We may touch on the whole Deer Moon thing because I know that there's probably going to be questions about it. So if so, we'll probably save that to the end of the show. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and go over to the Massie site where one of the biggest changes that we saw this week is related to this boxed out area of land here. And Lawrence, what do you think we got going on there?
So it definitely looks like a fire break, plus it looks like more clearing is possibly coming to that area, since that's the direction the flame trench is pointed.
Right. Yeah. Initially, I was expecting to see like fencing along this maybe to block it off from people accessing the area, but I don't really see anything so far. But do you think this is kind of like containment in some degree to prevent fires from jumping over into different areas? I feel like it's not wide enough for that because I've seen some crazy brush fires and they would probably jump over that really easily.
Yeah, that's why I think that's just boxing out before they clear out what could possibly catch fire. They do a lot of that here in California, where they'll make the fire breaks, even though it still can jump the breaks. That's a good way to start.
True. Yeah. Sometimes people just burn it anyways, like if you get enough containment or enough, I guess containment is the right word for this. If you get enough containment around it, then you could just burn what's in the middle instead of having to actually clear everything. That would kind of be cool to just let it happen naturally with the first static fire test.
Yeah, definitely. And they do a lot of that controlled burn here in California as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing something like that. There's still a bulldozer down there, so they could start the clearing. Maybe by the time we get the next flyover, there may be more progress.
Right. And this makes me kind of think about the launch site. So I'm just gonna go back to that for 1 second, and just talk about it from I guess, a larger scale of things. Let me see if I can get a image that shows what I want a little better. Mm, I really want to show the area to the, I guess over here. So with the launch mount potentially being right here, I feel like all of this area over here is gonna have to get cleared in some way or form. Um, because your flames are always obviously going to burn all of this every time they launch, and probably over here as well too. Even with the deluge system, I think you'd probably still have that issue, possibly. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how they're going to do that land clearing over here. If they're doing something similar at Massey's, I would have to imagine they may need to do that at the launch site as well too.
Yeah, definitely. And that may be one of the reasons they had wanted to include that 10 acres next to the new orbital pad for that reason.
Right. Do you think we'll have to wait for them to clear this all out before we see the first static fire test?
Honestly, I don't think so, especially if it's only like a one engine test.
Right. And yeah, on that note, we're still waiting for that first test. They have the area really cleared over here. They seem to be, you know, just days away from this first test. Um, these are actually probably some of the clearest images that I've ever seen of Massey's this week. Not just because everything is actually clean, but these a lot of these got really close up shots of some of these areas. So yeah, they're still getting set up for this. We did see them do just a small cryo test with Ship 26 last week, which we mentioned on that show. But since then, we haven't really seen anything else. They're still laying down concrete in some areas, just really getting rid of all of the dirt that's out here, essentially. So it's just one solid pad. But yeah, I mean, they look like they're pretty much ready to go. The tank farm, for the most part, finally looks like it's complete. Um, most of the construction equipment, at least for the static fire test stand, is pretty much all gone.
Yeah, and it looks like they've mainly been working on getting the GSE set up for the stand itself.
Right. Yeah, they so I think there's an actual water suppression system on the stand as well too. I haven't been able to find it. But I think it would be really cool if we were able to have a live stream camera in this area like we do everywhere else, so we could actually see any like smaller tests like this that don't involve cryo flu or venting in the air, for us to at least identify it. So it would be cool to see how they have this set up for like fire suppression. But I mean, as far as like clarity goes, as I was mentioning earlier, if y'all want to go through these images yourselves, it's crazy. Like you can almost read labels off of some of these things, but the detail and the actual piping, if you're like into that kind of stuff, I definitely recommend going through these yourselves because it's pretty cool. Um, but there's not a ton to talk about with this area until we actually see that first static fire test. But meanwhile, there's on the other half of the Massey site, there is a good amount of work going on. So they are still currently drilling the CFA piles for the additional liquid oxygen tanks. It almost looks like they may be close to wrapping that up. I don't see any rebar cages laying around.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they're really close to being done.
Yeah, I think there's maybe this is rebar right here. Yeah. Oh, there's the cages right in the back. How did I miss that? Cool. Yeah, so they're still working on that. I think once they finish that up, it'll probably be like 2 weeks until they finish that, and then we'll see them form the foundations for those and probably start shipping tanks down here soon. Probably be on the lookout for those to show up to the port. I'm surprised they haven't arrived already. Speaking of tanks, though, I think there was a cool little ground shot of one of the tanks being moved. I don't know if this was if you know the details on this one. I just happened to see it right here. This is a super old tank. I think this is one of the ones from the suborbital tank farm.
Yeah, I'm not sure which tank that was, but it definitely looks like it came from the suborbital side, and it looks like there's something going on with that transport trailer too. The front wheel, it looks like may have an issue.
This?
No, it looked like
Like, well, that
when
doesn't
I
look
first
good.
when I first looked at it, it looked like there may have been an issue, but it was just I just saw it wrong.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure if you're talking about this wheel, I'm pretty sure they're still driving with that wheel gone. Um, but yeah, maybe it's just abandoned here on the side of the road until they are ready to actually ship it out. I can't tell exactly where this is based on the. I mean, it's clearly on Highway 4, but I don't know where. Yeah, I think these are possibly going to Pad 39A for Falcon Heavy launches. That or either that or they're selling it to another customer. But usually, I think they try and keep these things, so we'll probably see it arrive down there. Hopefully, it gets a new paint job before it gets down there. But yeah, so moving back on, the test stand that we've been paying attention to down here is starting to make some more progress. They've got another layer set on top. I can't tell if as we talked about that these are filled with concrete. I can't tell if they've started that yet or if they just still only have these caps on, but I imagine they probably have to do it as they're going. Any
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
and definitely. And I did see that during the week that they have been welding and working on the transition from the first to second set. So it wouldn't surprise me if that third rig is going to be placed real soon.
Yeah, it's funny because it took like, I don't know, a month and a half almost, if not longer, to finish this one. And then all of a sudden they lifted that this week, and then they had the other one nearly ready to go. And then I think we've seen pieces for a fourth level back here. So it's still going to get even taller than it currently is. And now they've already have booster 14.1 out here waiting. Oh wow! I just noticed that this is on the old booster transport stand. Don't know how I missed that before. So I wonder if that means that this thing has an actual booster aft skirt on it. That's interesting. I wonder how they actually got that on there. But yeah, so we had some. I don't think we have ground shots this week, but I was talking to Jax about this, and from what we've been able to tell, they do have not load cells. What are they called? The word is slipping my mind right now.
The lifting points.
No, so they have the sensors attached on the lifting points. The name of the sensors just slipped my mind right now. But essentially, it looks like they're planning to, strain gauges. Thanks, Jake. That helped me out. I'm like, why can't I think of this word right now? Strain gauges. So they have strain gauges on the actual lifting points, and so it seems like this may be a test of um, to make sure that these lifting points are able to meet the demands that are going to basically be put on them during the first catch attempt. So, and we've kind of showed these in past episodes, but you can see how this is the other lifting pin right here, and it attaches to the dome, like right in this location. So, I think it's interesting to have to do this test. Like, obviously, I guess there's going to be slightly more weight when it comes into land. So, from what we're expecting, it should be near zero velocity when it lands, but it'll be definitely heavier than what it normally is when it's lifted by the chopsticks. But in my opinion, not by much. So normally the boosters have the hot stage ring on top, and they also have, sorry, but they're not going to land with the hot stage ring. So as far as we know, so if they did, you'd have that extra 10 tons and then probably 20 tons of fuel on top of that. So like, let's say the booster normally weighs 270, then that extra 20 tons of residual fuel would bring it up to 290. So I think they're probably doing some sort of test to make sure that the lifting points are able to withstand that. And I don't know, it could even be a structural test for the heavier version 2 and version 3 boosters. So with those stretch tanks, they could get up to 300 tons, if not more, plus your residual fuels in that. So I think this could be one of the first tests that's related to version 2 and version 3 of the boosters.
It definitely would not surprise me if they are using this test article to combine those tests for current loading when they do decide to land, whichever flight that is, or the future versions.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's almost funny, like how serious of a test stand this is, just to test load points. I'm sure they're going to do other things other than just test those load points, but if this is all just for that seems like a almost overkill. I'm surprised there's not an easier way to do it without building such a large structure for that.
Agreed. And one thing I pointed out the other night is it looks like they could actually drop the actual nose cone gel inside the outer ring with how wide that is.
I mean, would they have a reason to do that with the cage already in here? I feel like that already kind of covers the same purpose. It's like an upgraded version of this in some ways.
Yeah, and I understand that. And it's just funny that they haven't gotten rid of that yet.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does have, so inside of the nose cone gel, it has all of these pistons in there. I haven't counted them, but I wonder how that compares with how many are in here. I'll probably give that a count later. I'm not going to sit here and do that right now. But yeah, that would be interesting to find out. Actually, you know what? Whatever. We got time. Let's count them because I want to know. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even see the rest of them. I think there's 12. 1, 2,
2
3.
per side.
Yeah, I think there's 12. Then I don't know how many are down here. not going to be able to see those. This is definitely more than 12 down here, though. So maybe it's not exactly the same. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Does anybody in the chat have questions on some of the stuff we've been talking about down here? There's not a ton to cover at Massey's.
Well, I want to thank Flippers79, Flip Diaz for gifting a membership, as well as Callistia Lee gifting 5 memberships before the stream even started. I got a question from Liam Donald regarding the port. Why are we interested in construction at the port? How does it relate to SpaceX?
Well, we've gone back and forth on that, and we've always thought that there's a chance that they could source their LNG from there. Like, as far as right now, we've kind of been told that that's not what's going to happen. It's primarily for shipping LNG overseas. So I don't know. I have a feeling that that will change a little bit. And I mean, instead of SpaceX having to drive all the way to Houston for their LNG, if you're able to just drive, a half hour away, basically a 2-hour turnaround, if I had to guess, to fill up methane, then that would be significantly better than having to drive all the way to Houston. So just a way for them to drive down their operational costs. I don't know. It's still very, very, very large construction project, and just happen to be able to get pictures of it. So whether it's related to SpaceX or not, we still think it's cool.
Definitely. Hopefully they can drive down some costs there. Missing Tools asks, what keeps the water in the deluge tank? For example, no weir loop.
Valves. So the other tanks at the launch site don't have valves. They're just open all the time, and so it does have that weir loop. I'll just go ahead and show that really quick. We can see it from way over here. If I can zoom in. Yeah, so it has these weir loops to keep the tanks from draining out. But here, they just have valves on the bottom of the tanks. So when the valves open, the water flows out.
For sure. Jeff S. Jones asks, will SpaceX build a second test stand for redundancy? It looks like a perfect space opposite the new test stand. Shared GSE. Thanks.
I imagine that at some point they'll potentially reach a point where that becomes necessary. That would be very high-paced testing. I can't really imagine that happening anytime soon. They had 2 test stands at the launch site before, and they very, very rarely ever needed that. I think at one point they had SN9 and SN10 at the pad at the same time. I can't really think of too many other occasions where they had 2 ships at the launch site, both on the test stands.
Yeah, the only other one I could think of recently, I believe it was S26 and S29 that they had on the stands. Might have been S28, but both were on the stands before Flight 2.
Yeah. I can't imagine that becoming necessary yet. And I think that if it did, it would probably be... So you only have one cryo station. You have one cryo station for the ship, one for the booster, and then one ship static fire stand. I feel like if it became necessary to have another ship static fire stand, that you would also need another cryo station because, I feel like you would need to basically double your throughput through here in order for that to become necessary. So, I can't really see that happening anytime soon. But this little corner is kind of weird.
Agreed. And I think the real cadence is going to come in Florida, not here.
I'm on the fence about that because the Star Factory is incredibly large. So I think that they'll be able to, once they actually start constructing the next version of ships, because right now they're really not doing any stacking. I think the pace will be potentially at least 2 times faster, if not 3 times faster, once they get started. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be much quicker than what we've ever seen before. But whether it requires a second static fire stand, I don't know if that's necessary.
Agreed.
I'm really
Alright.
excited for them to get to that next step, though. It's going to be kind of crazy once they start. I wonder if it's going to be like a slow build when they get just their first um, Pathfinder versions, I guess, or test versions of V2 and V3, and or if they're just like immediately going to ramp up into that fast-paced production. Cool. All right. I guess unless we have any more questions, we will hop over to Sanchez.
I do have another couple or two. Crane Man wants to know why the pile driver is so long at this location. The tank supports for 1 to 3 extra tanks don't need so many piles in the ground, do they? Could the occurrence of the pile driver hold up to a static fire?
So when they did the foundations for these, I want to say there was 5 piles for each on each side. So there was 5 here. There's 2, 1 in the middle, and then 2 on the back side. It could maybe even more than that. So I think this is just the same amount that they did before for these. But these tanks are significantly heavier than these ones, so that's kind of the reasoning behind that. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with static fires per se. I don't know, maybe because the ground kind of vibrates a lot when you are performing static fires, and that could cause the liquefaction, I guess, in the deep soil. I doubt it, but that it could be related to that. You have any thoughts on that, Lawrence?
Yeah, I think they've learned over the years to go with a more dense set of piles instead of just large piles.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Liam Donald asks, where did all the tanks from the suborbital site go? I thought some would go to Massie's.
No, those tanks are too small for Massey's. They're about this size, I think, if not slightly smaller. And right now, they're really only waiting for the additional LOX tanks, and those are way bigger than those. So most of them are probably going to Pad 39A for expanding the tank farm for Falcon Heavy.
All right, my cue is clear.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and swap over to the Sanchez site. And we have some cool shots from Sanchez this week. I think one of the ground images that was taken the other day shows a sign on the side of the fence, which kind of confirms something that we've had some questions about. I should cover up that little cell phone number down there so we don't get a bunch of people trying to make that call. But so basically the sign says tower and launch mount build site. So obviously we already know the tower is being constructed there, but it seems like the actual launch mount will be constructed here as well too. So with that said, I think it's, for a while I was kind of curious about the outlines that they have here. And I think that they probably have this already. Everything that that's going to be out here already has a designated spot. So yesterday, this is Adam Bernstein who posted this. They started moving the 5th tower section. I think this is.
Yeah,
tower.
That's number 5.
Oh, it's like literally right there. Yeah, so the 5th tower section plus the carriage to the chopsticks, and then the final section, I think, is section 1.
Section 4.
Really? Is section 1 already there?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all at Sanchez already.
I don't know how I missed section 1. So it has the Oh, they took off the little pedestal on the bottom corner, right?
Yeah, it's just laying on the ground there.
Okay, that makes it a little harder to identify it. But yeah, so they have, I guess, planned space for all of this stuff. Right now, I don't actually see any foundations for those other two tower sections, which is weird. So these ones, I'm gonna get a more clear image here. They all have these square pads with embeds in them that allow them to lay these um, pedestals on top of them. But in the two locations where I would expect them to be, they're not there. So I would imagine they would probably, keep it tight in here and put them in these two locations. Um, but I don't see anything for that so far. But like I was saying before, I think that they've kind of got this laid out for each individual item. So I think maybe we could see the two chopsticks left and right over here, possibly. Um, Either that or this could be the actual location for the launch mount because probably want a crane on both sides if you're trying to build this thing quickly. So this would be a perfect spot for the launch mount. But the carriage, chopsticks, all that stuff. We have the QD arm as well too. So a ton of things that will be moving here, and I think they already have spaces identified for each of those. So I think it's going to be really cool for a while seeing all of that here until they actually start stacking these tower sections. But yeah, this is getting pretty wild as far as just the pre-fabrication that's going on out here. Not really any different from the other two times they constructed these, but just having all of it in one spot at the same time, I think makes it look a lot more official than it did last time. So let's see, what else do we have? Not really much to talk about with the ground fabrication building, but most of the pipework for the actual tower sections, I believe, are probably being welded in here. And we'll also see a lot of the things that are going inside the launch mount will come out of this building as well too. So grab us another image here. Beyond that, I don't know if there's a ton to talk about in that area, so I'll move over. And even back here, there's not a ton to talk about. They do have some new parking spots going in back here in the on the perimeter of the site. I think they're still working on this expansion to the generator facility, which we don't really know what's going on there yet. Not a lot of action elsewhere at Sanchez though. Lots of water offloads into these tanks. Still haven't finished.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, it looks like most of the work has been on that commodities tank farm, and pretty much just finishing up some of their welding in the free time.
Yeah, and I mean, they've mostly had this finished. I think they're working on. Last week they were building the underground stuff over here that connects to it, I believe. I think I have a good shot of that from the backside. Yeah, so that they've kind of looks like they've wrapped that up and they're kind of covering everything up that they've done down there, and then probably reinstall that concrete. But other than that, there's not really a ton going on at the Sanchez site. Was there anything else that I didn't mention down here that you wanted to bring up?
No, it looks like they're just really getting it cleaned up and ready to go full bore on the next tower in OLM.
Agreed. So moving over, I guess, a little bit more, we can see the parking garage is structurally completed, and now they're working on everything else. So they looks like they've been adding in like railing. Probably have to do that on all 6 levels, railing in between each of these little concrete slabs right here, and obviously painting lanes, installing all the electrical, drainage, and all that stuff. And then I think they'll probably have 2 elevators, but other than that, I don't think they did the stairs yet. I'm not sure. But yeah, so basically just final outfitting on this structure all happening right now. But they finished the actual main part of the construction on time. I think their deadline was June 1st, and it looks like they even got the cranes off site by that time. So
Yeah, they definitely did that really fast.
yeah, I think down here you can see some of the that they're gonna be setting up in there. So if I had to guess, probably another month until we start seeing this in use. But it's definitely going to change the landscape of things as far as not having so many cars on the side of the road all over the place. Centralized parking is always nice. Cool. So I'm going to move over to the ring yard area, which kind of looking at this from behind. I thought they were extending the fence down here. I think it's further down. But yeah, so they still have some construction going on down in this area, and I think we finally have a good understanding of what's going on. So there's all these small frame pieces down here that, you would think the Mega Bay is mostly done, but there's still some work going on the inside, which we can see in this ground image that I have here. Got some really cool shots from the front. Hold on. Oh wow! While I'm here, you can already see that they've got the railing installed on most of it, but no drainage pipe work on the ceiling yet. So, where's that shot I was looking for? This one. This is probably a good one. So yeah, when you look at the front of Mega Bay 2, you can kind of really see what's going on in here. But they're essentially installing what looks like permanent scaffolding back here. So in the side of the high bay, there was always scaffolding that almost goes all the way up to the top of the high bay. And sometimes they leave it there permanently, and other times they take it down, depending on how many ships are in there. But this looks kind of like scaffolding going all the way up to the top. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was just going to say, compared to Mega Bay 1, where we saw those platforms go in, this looks like it's going to be set up so they'll have the different levels and not have to rely on the scaffolding.
Right. Yeah, especially if you're trying to get in there to do work on, tiles and all that stuff. But the weird thing about that is they only have, I don't know if they have, so in the back right corner, I think was the turntable, right? Or is that in the front corner?
I believe it's in the back right.
Yeah, so that's interesting if it's in the back, because all of this scaffolding seems right now to only be for this middle stand. I'm assuming maybe they have some additional stuff that they're setting up in this corner for these 2 stands. But it almost seems like all of that scaffolding is just for this middle stand right here.
Plus, you have the 2 elevators in the back corners, so that helps with the construction due to that framework already being there.
It actually makes the elevator useful, because right now we haven't seen them do anything on the top floor of any of these buildings other than the high bay. Half of it, we know they have a bar on half of the high bay. So like on this side of the high bay, pretty sure this side is empty. For the most part, the entire upper portion of this building is empty, and same thing with this one. So Uh, the elevator mostly, I think, will get used to go to each level of that scaffolding.
So, and some breaking news, it looks like the chopsticks are being moved to the turn basin right now.
Okay, awesome. That's going to be a pretty full load. I think the only other thing remaining in that case would probably be the QD arm.
That's pretty much the only thing that would be missing for the tower itself.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess in probably about 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see all of that at the Sanchez site. But yeah, it's been interesting because they don't have any ships in here currently. They still have the others inside of the high bay, and I've kind of been wondering why they haven't moved everything over yet. And I'm pretty sure it's just related to trying to get all of this interior construction work done. So luckily, they do have that high bay, and they don't have to do everything at the same time while also having ships in there, which they essentially had to do for the Mega Bay 1, when they were setting up all of the platforms inside of there. So let's see. As I mentioned before, we haven't really seen any progress on stacking new ships or boosters. So they do have this common dome section out here for, I think this one may have had 14.1 on it as well too. I'm not sure, but it could be for 15 possibly. I'm not sure. But right now there is boosters 12 and 13 in here.
And 14.
And 14, right. And then ships, was it 30? This is 32 over here, right?
Yes.
So just 31 in here right now?
30 and 31 are both in there.
Yeah, right.
And I think once all the major construction is done, and they get it cleaned up, we'll start seeing the stacking of the next ships in Mega Bay 2.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll happen in there. I say this all the time, hoping that this building comes down. So we'll see if as soon as they finish that stuff and move everything out of here, if they ever stack anything in here again.
Yeah, I can see in 6 months' time, once the office building is up and the rest of this construction is done, we might see another bay go in that area.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, potentially you could, unless this needs to remain open right here, you could squeeze them closer together, and you could put 3 of them if you really wanted to. Or sorry, two additional next to each other if you really wanted to. Yeah, I'm hoping we see something like that because I imagine that the Stargate building could potentially move in the other office that they're constructing. There's seems to be a lot of space in there, so I'm hoping that as soon as that building is finished, we start seeing them demolish this stuff over here. So moving on, I guess, to the Star Factory. Then I'll handle all the build site questions all at the same time. But moving on to the Star Factory, man, this is just super impressive looking. And it's kind of hard to like truly grasp the scale of this. Mauricio has a good picture looking from the into that hallway, I guess, from the front or the backside. Let's see. Yeah, so this is just like one hallway of that building, and it's massive. And I've kind of speculated, I'm not sure what other people think, that this is kind of just the either staging area or like final staging before they move out of here, essentially. So they have the door on the front. See if I can get the right image for that. I don't know if I have one from that side right now. Here it is.
It definitely would not surprise me if there was parts of stacks staged there, especially the nose cones. So when people are driving by, they can look over and go, whoa.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty awesome view looking through that glass window. Um, I wish the whole facility was glass so you could see like from one side all the way to the other.
That would be so cool.
It almost looks like they're what's going on here? I was about to say it almost looked like they were going to expand this even further.
We believe that's for the drainage.
Right. Yeah, well, on the as far as the exterior goes, all of the exterior walls, other than that opening on the other side, are all completed. So all the work that's remaining right now is pretty much happening on the inside. Um, but there is this area down here where it seems like they may. I still don't know what to think about this because it doesn't necessarily look like it's an extension of this building, and if it is an extension of just this right here, it's shaped very oddly.
That and it still follows the curve of Highway 4 right there. So it keeps the flow on the outside.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this? Like what they're actually doing?
I think they're extending the taller part of the Star Factory so they can have more room. And it would make sense for that hallway if they want more staging areas for that.
Seems a bit excessive.
Well, everything at Starbase is go big or go home.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And we've still yet to see whether or not they're going to install solar panels on the top of this. I'm sure we'll get a question about that. That's a pretty common question. But we've not seen any signs of that. They do have most of their HVAC installed. There's seems to be a row right here that's missing. But as far as the building being operational, I would say it's getting close to that. You know, it's actually finally a fully cooled space right now, so that is really helpful. I mean, this is like 10 times more cooling than they had in the tents. So probably gonna be nice and comfortable in there. But yeah, what we do know is that the everyday astronaut is probably going to be doing a tour sometime this week before the next launch. I'm sure we probably won't see that for another few weeks or possibly even a month while he's editing it. But hopefully we get some good sights in there. I know that most of it is probably still under construction on the inside, like this entire middle area right here. Probably doesn't have anything happening inside of it, but I think everything on this L right here should actually be fully operational.
Agreed. And we know at least up front they still have to pour the concrete floor in a lot of places.
Right, that makes sense. Wait, you mean in the inside of the building?
Yeah, there's still like that area we know is finished, but that whole new middle section and the new extension they added on the front there next to Mega Bay 2, there's still dirt on the
I thought they
inside.
poured the concrete before they even started the walls.
Not all of it. There's still a lot of dirt on the inside of the new sections.
Okay. Yeah, I would say one of the things I'm most excited for on that tour is to see this back corner area because that's one of the biggest mysteries. So they installed a large press pit in here, and we don't know what they're using it for really. Like we have a general idea of what they're using it for, but I have a feeling that they may be possibly going to construct their own thrust pucks for the booster in here. So I wonder if there's machinery for that inside of this building. So I'm hoping that that's something that we get to see during that tour. But I think this is the biggest area that Tim will probably spend most of his time on that tour, if I had to guess.
Yeah, the ones that are already completed and operating.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get good views inside of the Mega Bay. as well too. 'Cause he hasn't been in there since they finished all of that, all of the work platforms and all that stuff. Um, let's see, anything else Star Factory related that I haven't mentioned? They are doing some groundwork on the back over here for drainage. They've been doing this forever. I'm surprised that's not done yet.
Yeah, it looks like it's really close to being done. And it looks like they're just setting up to pour concrete over the drains.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of water that this roof can hold. So if you get really heavy rainstorms, I would love to see the volume of water that ends up flowing off of this roof.
It's going to be very interesting if we get any back shots of Star Factory while it's raining. It's going to look like the drainage coming out of there is going to be intense.
I have a feeling that you could probably hear it. You could probably hear it flowing on the roof, possibly. Like, especially down on this side, once the flow really picks up, like it's kind of light down here and then it gets heavier and heavier as you keep going. So I imagine the water crashing against this wall down here probably makes it pretty loud on the inside during a heavy rainstorm.
I can imagine so after working in several large warehouse type buildings, especially in Florida where it rains a lot.
Yeah. Any other stuff that you wanted to mention about this area?
The backside looks like they're just still setting up the commodities and power along with the drainage. And the only other thing about Star Factory is that it looks like they're still waiting for some bridge cranes to come in with the open spots in the roof in the middle.
Yeah, so they got these three rows finished up and waiting to finish these three.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
They sure move quick though, that's for sure. Anybody else hate the shape of this building? They're just the randomness of it. It probably won't be as bad once they finish this corner. Yeah, and I think this part over here is really odd. I'm curious if there's enough room inside this building for all of the um, the bakery to move in there. So that'll be interesting. And also, one of the other things I've been wondering if they'll be able to make their own flaps in here, or if they'll still have to deliver those. So, lots of questions on exactly what all they're able to do in here, which hopefully, like I said, we'll get some answers once Tim does his tour. But moving over to the office building, making some good progress on that as well too. This is an interesting structure. They have looks like they've just poured concrete on this level down here, but it's weird because you can see the way that this floor kind of curves over like this. I have a feeling that that's like a large cafeteria down here or something.
I believe that's some sort of lobby area or something along with that floor. And I've seen office buildings where you have a multi story lobby with an open space.
Right. Yeah, I mean on this side, oh, they still need to connect the two buildings. But yeah, you can see that it curves over like this around here. So yeah, this is a large open area down there at the bottom. This would be a pretty cool building. I don't think we'll ever really get to see what it all looks like on the inside, but definitely a lot of our office space. And like I said before, I think that the whatever was happening at Stargate facility will probably move into this structure. I don't think it really makes sense to even have the other one anymore after this is built.
And I was kind of wondering as we were talking about that, is maybe that's what that extension is, since it appears it will only be 3 stories tall. Maybe that will be the new Stargate section.
Right. Yeah. Whereas the rest of this is their actual office space.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really cool though. They have balconies. It looks like they have balconies on each floor as well. Like a balcony just surrounding the entire thing. So that's gonna be cool. Even from the front. I don't think I do have a good shot from the front. This would be a cool space to watch the launches from. I think that's 3 separate balconies.
Yes, and it would not surprise me that we end up seeing like tables and chairs out there so people can go enjoy their breaks on the balconies.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Do we have any build site questions?
We do. I want to thank some folks for some support, though. I want to thank 55 Chevy Guy Steve for gifting 5-minute memberships, as well as Jack's gifting a membership, and some amazing support from Crane Man with a $100 PayPal donation, who says, "Great show. Awesome to hear Zach again. My donation for the next flight. Go RGV." Thanks, Crane Man. We surely appreciate that support, helping keep RGV in the air. Got some questions we missed on the way out of Sanchez. Wait for it. Is the ground fab building big enough for SpaceX to build the launch table in it? If so, could it already be being built in there?
Um, it's certainly wide enough. I mean, I think if they did construct it in there, then there would be nothing else other than that in there. The question is like with how tall the launch mount is, if the bridge crane is able to get things up and over the walls of that launch mount in order to install like the clamps and stuff like that. I have a feeling it won't be installed in here, but as far as whether or not they've already started, I think we would know. The launch mount is constructed of 10 very large sections, and those things will not make their way into Starbase without us seeing them. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive they haven't started yet, surprisingly.
Agreed. I have not seen any indications of the launch mount yet.
You know what would be cool is if the last thing we see added onto that barge is all of those sections being transported over to it. Launch mount sections.
Right. Liam Donald asks, regarding Mega Bay 2, are there workstations on the side connected to the Star Factory?
Yeah, so there's sorry, I'm trying to get a frontal image of it. Why am I not seeing that? I can't find a view from the front. All of a sudden, I was just looking at it before. There we go. So I believe there's a turntable in the back right corner. Then, so far, I don't think there's anything in the front right corner. But they are at the Sanchez site preparing to build another engine install stand. So I think that may end up in the front right corner.
Yeah, I think where this question is going is would there be room to bring stuff in and out from Star Factory into the Mega Bay? And I believe the leading theory is it's going to be for engines, would be about the right size to go in between the two buildings.
Yeah, you could probably store a bunch of RVACs in here. Yeah, it's tough to say. That's one of those questions that we'll have to wait and see if we can pick out those details during EDA's tour. We're definitely going to pick apart that video so we can see all the little details that are visible but don't get actually talked about. So yeah, it's tough to say, but we do know there is a small door in between these two, but obviously I'm not sure what's moving between the two structures.
All right. Kyler Monaris asking, any ideas on why the weird shapes for those concrete pads between factory and office building? The shape makes no sense when compared to the rest of the concrete pads.
Lawrence, yeah, I don't know. I'm confused on it as well too. I mean, this to me almost looks like a entryway where you'd have like a long ramp with stairs, possibly. But I don't know, because this, if it was continuing the curve of this building, then the supports would be not in a straight line like this, right? So I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. And
You can actually see the wood laid out like a railing laid out on the on those, and see how it curves compared to the. If you look on the two big large squares, you'll actually see the wood laid out in the middle.
you're talking about over here?
Yeah, right there. If you look right below your cursor, you'll see how the wood is stretched across.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is if this almost looks like another pylon or pile right here, or foundation, I guess. So I don't know if it like curves over like that, and then this is just like the entrance to the building. I think that we'll see additional pads right here as well too. They just haven't started them yet.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna take up as much space around that plot of land as they can while they can.
Agreed.
Speaking of which, a relevant question that it always comes up, Micah B asks, any update on that private plot of land and mitigations?
Nope.
Didn't
Yeah, we
think so.
still don't know the status of this.
All right then. Seabreeze, a question addressing Zach. Do you believe in the factory they have air scrubbers to bring the area closer to quote unquote clean room conditions? That includes the temperature. Thank you.
Clean room conditions are usually negative pressure, so they're like removing air from the room instead of just scrubbing it. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's necessary. I have a feeling it's not really clean room status in there. What's your thoughts on that, Lawrence?
I don't think it's exactly clean room, but it's going to be about as close as you can get in the dusty Southwest Texas area.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. I think this question is related to the non-existent air separation plant. Imagine Beyond asks, how is the direct air capture to fuel coming along?
We haven't seen anything like that. I mean, they did have the air separation plant for liquid oxygen and nitrogen production, but that's been gone for a while now. As far as, sorry, yeah, that was down in this area before, so they got rid of that. We don't know if they'll bring it back. I don't think we'll see it come back. Like I mean, it is totally possible that they removed it just so they'd have room to do everything they needed here. But yeah, as far as like producing methane from direct air capture, we have never seen anything related to that out here. So.
All right, and I've been saving up a final question, which we should address. Kenan Copeland asks, what level of Patreon do you need to have these photos?
So I think there's 7 tiers. Each tier gives you a different number of images each week. So if you are any of those tiers, you'll just get increased amount of images. But each tier has images from each site. But as you go up in higher tiers, you'll get more images from each location. So sometimes you're able to see certain things from certain views and not from others. So that's when, in my opinion, those higher tiers are definitely worth it. Certainly for me. But yeah, if you're whether you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you should have access to those.
All right, then I want to just thank Tim Jones for just gifting him a membership as well. Speaking of which, and my queue is clear.
Awesome. I don't think there's anything to talk about at the village this week. Did you have anything, Lawrence?
Construction continues at the village.
Yeah, they're still making houses, but I think out of the ones that have already been started, they're pretty much done. Looks like people are already living in, or moving into most of these. So most of that new construction is complete. I think there's some plots of these, some of these plots they may not own yet. We haven't seen a property map in a while.
I think a lot of this is still depending on that land swap with Texas Parks.
Are you sure that these are related to that, or?
I think there's some. I think there's some in there that are part of that deal, or they've figured out a way to make it a part of that deal.
And yeah, still no progress on the rec center yet. They're still doing a little bit of groundwork, but we haven't seen them actually start to outline where that's going to be.
Yeah, it looks like most of the utility work is ongoing to set everything up for that, and I guess there's going to be a new restaurant in that area too.
Really?
I guess there's going to be a sushi bar going in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I do remember that, yeah. So sushi restaurant, rec center, and then we have, I'm surprised nobody's asked about this. The this large store that they're going to build over here, grocery store, I guess. And they have not started that either.
Yeah, the Rio West development, as it's known, where there's going to be a large store as well as a cafe/restaurant.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is I feel like they're going to have the whole launch tower constructed before this building's done.
I think priorities have definitely shifted. Plus, I don't think they use the same kind of wick system that they did at the tower, but I think they're letting this one sit and drain more and settle before they get the true construction going.
That makes sense. Well, shall we move over to the launch site?
Got a quick question on the village from Liam Donald. Do we know how many houses they built in total? How many people do they have to accommodate for?
I have not counted how many new structures were built here, and it's tough to say. Some of these are duplexes, not duplexes. Is that the right word for it?
Yes, duplexes, single family homes. It's really a mixed living community.
Yeah. So it's really difficult to say. But if you have access to these images, you're more than welcome to count them. But make sure you include all of these over here. The airstreams were already there. I think they added. Oh wait, sorry. This side of the street were old ones. These are newer. And then you have all of these in here. This is pretty packed. And then all the ones on the backside, these small ones over here. So there's a lot that you have to count, and I'm not going to do it. Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and move over to the launch site. And I am changing the order of this now. Instead of starting at what was the suborbital site like I usually do, I'm starting at the orbital pad since the exciting stuff is at the pad B. So Let's see. We have booster 11 and ship 29 chilling out here. They've finished replacing all the tiles on ship 29, and I think they had some other, the FTS was installed on both of them as well this week. So
Yes,
Starship,
and
go ahead.
yes, and everybody, I know the big question is, why are there still 2 tiles missing?
Yeah, on the bottom. I don't think we know the answer to that. I think there's more than that missing. I was talking to Jax about this last night. I think there was a missing tile that actually got painted over. Like, it's just they shaved off the pins and then they painted it black. So unless you like look really hard, you may not actually be able to find it. I'm not sure. I think some theories are that they may be intentionally leaving a tile off to see what happens. But in my opinion, I'm not sure how necessary that is, because they haven't had a successful launch without losing tiles yet. So, like, if they wanted to do that kind of test, they could just naturally let it fall off, since statistically speaking, they're going to lose at least one. But I guess if you want to have like a control where you know exactly which tile you didn't include, and then have like sensors attached onto it so you can measure the heating, possibly even cameras on the inside of the tank so you can observe it. That could be a possibility, but not really sure on that.
And that area is where they are missing is the skirt section, which is what experienced, I think, more heating than they were expecting, since it came in skirt first instead of belly first for S28.
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to not have tiles if you were trying to determine like what kind of damage is going to be sustained, because you can have it burn through in that area and not actually penetrate the tank itself. So if I was going to do a test like that, that's probably where I would do it.
Agreed.
Beyond that, there's not really a ton going on at the orbital pad area. This is kind of becoming boring unless it's launching stuff. I don't think we've seen too many changes down here. All the scaffolding is gone, as you can tell. The lifting pins for the booster, or the alignment pins for the booster, are gone. They've apparently painted the top surface of it.
Yes, it's surprising that almost 2 weeks before they were planning on launching, the scaffolding and the alignment pins had already been removed.
Yeah. There's a lot more going on, I'd say, at the orbital tank farm. They've now down to the last 3 LOX tanks, and still some work in here demolishing the pedestals for the cryo tanks. So they've gotten this one mostly done, and then haven't started this one yet. They also had to remove the bottom half of the tank shells, so those are all gone. And this area looks kind of clear now. The crane's already moved out, and I think it's currently laying down, so it's ready for basically in stowing position for the next launch. And yeah, a lot of equipment has been removed out of here, but you can see that they still have a lot of pipe work that they got to get rid of. So I think after the next launch, we'll see them potentially remove some of this pipe work. That's not going to be used anymore. And then we'll see what they do with this area, because it's going to be basically just a large open space with nothing in it other than these tanks over here. Originally, I was expecting that they'd have a whole bunch of vaporizers in here, but they've pretty much got those down in this area over here, and some other ones underneath these tanks on the backside. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing with this area.
Agreed. And I know they're still removing perlite from those shells that are still standing.
Yeah, I haven't been able to tell. Are they on the backside right now?
Yes, we've been seeing the pump trucks go behind back there. So they've started working on those two back tanks.
Okay.
And I believe this morning there was a Grove crane that actually lifted that excavator
Over to
out
here.
of that area. Yes.
Like, did it move it out completely, or did it just move it into this area?
I'm not sure if it got moved over or not, but it would not surprise me if they did just move it over so they could get that done before launch.
Is that perlite all on the bottom right there?
That looks like there was still a lot left after they were pumping, so
That stuff's probably all over the place. Um, yeah, not a ton else to talk about at the orbital tank farm area. But what I will say is, it's kind of crazy that they were able to get all of this completed um, before this launch. Like, I think I said multiple times that I wasn't expecting them to finish the LOX tanks, but it seems like all of this is operational. The only thing remaining in this entire area that really doesn't look like it's been set up yet is this one tank in the middle right here, which is interesting because this tank was added before the other 9. So just one extra tank in the middle over here, which is very confusing. I think this could be possibly used in the future. Like, it may be intended to replace these two for their which are part of the detanking process. So I don't know, or maybe they just forgot about it.
well, it looks like they have been working on it because that stub out looks newish. Like I don't really remember seeing all that on that tank recently.
Yeah, very curious. All right, I'm going to move us over to the Pad B area, which is now our most exciting part of Starbase right now. So now y'all can see that that LR 11,000 is over here laid on the corner, and they've started to frame out the pile cap for this building, which is very, very large. It's crazy when you look at the other tower. It's hard to truly understand how large it is until you see people down here like this, and you can get an idea of just how large the base is. So they're forming up the walls down here. They got these guys in here tying rebar essentially, and still have that dewatering system in there, and starting to clear other areas right here. I think this may be possibly where they still have to add additional piles, maybe for the extensions off the walls. I think those are going to be on these two sides.
And they were adding piles in that area this past week, so
They could already be down there.
safe to see. Yeah, that foundation is going to be massive. I believe we counted that it was 31 cement trucks full for just the slip pile for them to put all the rebar up for the pile cap.
Yeah, that's a big job. And I think we have a few folks modeling this out so we can get an idea of how tall it is. That's one thing I haven't been able to figure out, but it seems like it's the base of that like 8 feet tall, possibly. Just based on, oh, actually, he's standing on top of the rebar. I don't think he's down there with it. Yeah, incredibly thick base. And then they'll obviously start the walls after this. But that I don't think that'll start until after the launch. Obviously, probably don't want too much stuff in here that can get blown over. But down in this area, we see that they've been working with the other CFA drilling rig. I think there's a hole right there. Tons of rebar cages all over the place. So they've been working on some foundation stuff in this area where we're expecting the launch mount to be. And we're still not exactly sure what to expect with that. I think we've seen some new interesting things down here, specifically over in the little parking lot area down here, which we'll take a look at really quick. So, Lawrence, I'll let you explain these.
So we saw these, we've been seeing these embeds being built over in this area. And originally it was speculated that these could be for the actual base of the tower. However, with their odd shapes, it's looking more and more like it's going to actually be part of the embed system for the flame deflector system.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I mean, the shape of it is interesting. We can see a little, at least this one right here is kind of looks like a boomerang. Well, part of a boomerang. Yeah, I think it makes more sense that these will probably end up around the foundation of the launch mount, because all of that stuff, if they do have a flame deflector that resembles the previous one, will all need to get welded down on top of these plates. And they are stainless, it looks like, which we know that the flame deflector was made out of stainless steel as well too. So as far as like trying to keep your materials the same, this would kind of hint at these being used for that system.
Agreed. And yeah, you can see there's a mirror to that one right above it.
Right here.
Yes. And you can see the smaller ones, they look like squares, but they're not. If you get an egg or a shot from the side, they actually look like they're X's, like where they might go where the leg triangle, lower leg triangle pieces are. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, these will make things very clear to us what's happening once they lay out these. I think that'll explain a lot. But these embeds seem a lot taller than the ones they used on the of pad A. They're definitely tall. That's basically telling you the depth of that blast surface, if that's what these are for.
Yeah, I believe there has been a redesign since they didn't have to retrofit this one like they did for Pad A.
Moving back down to this area, the other possibly sad thing of the week, depending on who you ask, they've started taking down the Gateway to Mars sign, which honestly I've kind of been expecting for the last 2 months, ever since we kind of had an idea that this pad was going here. It's very funny how quickly this all happened. So they've gotten I think about half of the sign down right now. There's some ground images of that as well too.
Yeah, there's a great shot of the trailer they're loading it all on, and I believe they were working on the T at the time RGV took the pictures.
I mean, maybe this should just go on the Star Factory.
There's speculation it may go on the roadside above the windows.
I guess my question is, does it make sense to put it there? Because, as far as a gateway to another location, the launch site makes the most sense to be named that. I don't know if it makes sense to put this on the Star Factory.
I honestly think that it's going to come back here once construction is mostly done. There's going to be a new wall with the Gateway to Mars logo on it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what people in the comments think about where this will go. Yeah, I see Chris L says Star Factory isn't really the gateway though. I agree with that. Rob Shaw says the same thing. So yeah, maybe it'll just chill in storage until they finish the walls or any new walls that go out here. But I think that I do wonder where those walls will be because we don't know the true boundary of this pad right now. Like this is just what they have access to right now, but it's totally possible that they could expand out in this area. But I guess along the actual this right here. But I think they probably want to keep that open so that they're able to get tower sections and whatever else that they need to bring in here to stage equipment. So I guess another question is, should we expect this sign to come down? I think so.
I believe so as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of changes along there, especially with a lot of that being within the actual Texas DOT right away.
Right. I mean, when I first saw them construct that, I was like, oh, that's really cool, but it doesn't make sense. Like when you bring in these tower sections, they're either gonna. I imagine they may come straight through here. Because one other thing we're kind of seeing right now is this, I think, is Buckner finally has a crane on site, and this is the LTR. I know somebody wants to know, so I'm gonna find it really quick. LTR 1220, and this is like I said, one of Buckner's cranes, and more than likely this crane is here in order to help construct whatever larger crane they're bringing here. So right now you can see they have this whole area right here is still concrete, but they've gotten they built a kind of pad on top of it. So I imagine that we'll end up seeing cribbing on top of this as well too, and then this will be the area where that crane is stationed. So that gives it all of this to lay down its boom for constructing that, for assembling the boom, and then lifting tower sections from here and moving them over to here. So I think that's most likely where we'll see that crane stationed at. But with that said, if this is the drive up right here, I think all of this is going to go.
I believe everything to the right of the SpaceX side is coming down.
So you think they'll just cut it right here and leave the SpaceX sign?
They made a pretty permanent guard shack. I mean, I know concrete is not permanent at Starbase, but they made a pretty solid guard shack under or right behind the SpaceX sign. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that'll make it kind of clear will be whatever happens with this building down here. So I think at least part of this will go, like this one for sure. But these control bunkers, I don't think will be used for the orbital site. And the reason for that is I don't think they have. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the right image. I don't think they have the type of cooling they need for that tower, or for that structure. So if we look at the one over here, it's about the same size, but you can tell it's a lot of computers and servers in here. So they have a ton of cooling on this building, and every launch they add more. So they're putting in a lot of work to keep this structure cool. I imagine that all the extra stuff that they have out here that they realized they needed after the fact, that they may just want to construct the next version of that with all of this stuff in mind. So I think that we'll see this building deleted.
Agreed, especially once they connected the three-phase power to the site. I believe they realized what they had wasn't sufficient.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, I'm not sure if that's even running to this building. The three-phase power, I'm not sure. I know it runs across the front of it, but I don't think it actually runs to the building itself. So all of the new power for this site, okay, it's really hard to figure out. Yeah, so you can see the boxes down here. I think they're in the bottom corner. Maybe I'm not seeing them. I think they're covered up, but there's definitely one right here. These might be 3 of them, the other 3. But yeah, I think all of this is just waiting for that new structure to be built, and I don't think it actually ties into the existing. I think this is just in the way right now.
Yeah, I do believe anything associated with the suborbital farm will be eventually removed and rebuilt.
I know we have some questions on this area and some donations with some interesting comments on them. So let's go ahead and address those really quick.
Definitely. I want to thank Nate Z for $9.99 super chat. Nothing at Starbase is permanent. SpaceX sign is doomed. Thanks for that, Nate.
I agree. I think Starhopper is doomed in some ways. I think it's going to have to move.
Now you gone
Agreed.
and did it, Zach. Now you gone and did it. Want to thank JK Video for a $20 super chat. Did not bother to say anything, but thank you for that support. Helps keep RGV in the air. Appreciate you. John Norton with a $10 super chat. Give me a second. This is kind of a long one. For booster fueling, minimize OLM QD damage. In the future, could booster fueling be moved to ship QD for version 3 with modifications done to interior booster to direct prop flow to designed areas for fill and new ship QD? Sorry, that was hard to read. I think we're getting at fueling booster through ship QD. I'm not quite sure.
I doubt it. That's a lot of extra pipe work to go up through the tower. Like a lot. And that's a lot of extra pipe work to go on the QD arm. And then filling the booster through the top. That would be interesting. You would need pipes going all the way down to the LOX tank for that. I think that would just add more mass onto the booster. It would make probably certainly protect it a little bit more being higher up and then being able to move out of the way. But I don't know. I think that would add too much weight to the vehicle. They've already got enough problems in that area right now. What do you think, Lawrence?
I agree. Originally, they wanted to do the fueling for both vehicles from the ship or from the booster and fill it from the bottom up. So they ended up going with the separate QD system. I don't think we're going to see a single QD for both vehicles.
Yeah, that would be pretty wild, though.
For sure. All right, wait for it. Asking why SpaceX doesn't apply livery to the boosters. Are they going to destack one more time and apply livery to ship 29?
I don't know. I can't think of why you would put it on the booster. I mean, it's just a large stainless steel tank. I mean, you could. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth putting anything on there. I think the ship is like the important part. Like if anything gets named, like a name like the Enterprise or something like that, it's not going to be the booster, right? It's just going to be the ships. So as far as the actual ship goes, I don't believe they have gotten any decals on it. We do have some ground shots, and after they restacked, and there are no decals on it. Who knows? Maybe they're done with that.
Yeah, maybe. KMS asks, would it be good if the concrete cap of the OLIT and OLM are connected?
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking like that's going to happen. Especially now that they've got these walls up here. It doesn't look like they're trying to tie all of that into one structure. I mean, it's certainly not impossible, but in my opinion, it doesn't currently look like that's what they're doing. I think it would be good though, because then, as far as we can tell, it seems like the tower is possibly shifting a little bit. We actually don't know if it's the tower or the launch mount. It could be both, but tying them in together would cause them to shift together instead of separately. But like I said, I don't think that's currently what it looks like is happening.
And I believe that's one of the reasons they went with the smaller, denser piles for this build, is so they can try and avoid any of that shifting happening.
Right.
All right. I got a couple of related questions back to back here. Kyla Ramirez asks, do we think the hot dog tanks will be used for OLI-2 versus big spherical tanks because it's easier to shield hot dog tanks from pressure waves and flying debris during launch? And along with that, Chocolate Waffle says the recently installed 9 horizontal tanks, they're making new markings, which looks to extend the farm. Do you think it could be used for the second tower?
Let's see here. I didn't see any new stuff over there.
Yeah, if you look at the very end of the tanks from the aerial, you can see markings already where it looks like they've marked out where some new pilings are going to go. Those orange marks and boxes.
I mean, I could see them wanting to expand their liquid oxygen storage because I feel like it's weird how the amount of methane and oxygen storage almost seems to be the same. So yeah, I guess it wouldn't be all that surprising to see them add. Would that be like 2 or 3 additional tanks? Do we have a
At
direct?
least two.
Yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah, I think that would make sense. At least 2 additional LOX tanks, and I think they may have been like limited on space originally, and that's why they didn't do it. But it looks like they're planning to start that like relatively soon.
And I could see them sharing this tank farm to start out with just to get the tower operational, and then coming back and building a separate farm when they have more time.
That would be quite the process.
All right. Lox and Methane Sandwich, nice name. Do you think there's a possibility of the new LM to have a flame diverter kind of like the really old design they started building at 39A?
No, but anything's possible. I would think it's either going to be a similar system that they have on the first launch mount, or possibly something way more aggressive like a flame trench, which I don't think is. I think it's too early to rule that out. Question is whether or not they're stuck in their ways. Um, you know, like they could theoretically fit one here if it was going in this direction. But yeah, that's a big job if they do something like that. So I think we'll find that out pretty quickly. As soon as they start uncovering these piles, it'll be kind of obvious what's going on here, because it'll kind of outline the whole area of what we're expecting to see for the pad. So
Agreed. After launch, I think we're going to see a lot of major work happen in the week or two following the launch regarding the OLM Foundation.
agreed.
All right. I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's questions due to limited time constraints today, but Liam Donald asked a pretty good question here. How long will it take the concrete to set at the base of the tower? In other words, how long until they start stacking?
Oh, sorry. Mauricio just sent this to me. This is a pretty cool shot. Little Photoshop he did here.
That would be a very good representation of what we may end up seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible that it could look like this. I mean, if there was a tank farm, it probably could fit right in here very easily, maybe. But I guess, I mean, you need some sort of deflection. So I don't know. I think this area down here will be used for something as well too, and it won't just be like staging. So it's tough to say what that layout will look like, but for just mirroring what this is over here on top of that, that actually looks pretty cool. I honestly wouldn't be surprised in the future to see a third pad here because we were originally expecting the second one to be in this location. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 at this launch site at some point. I don't think I answered the question though. Can you repeat it?
I actually removed it from the queue. I don't have it anymore.
Shucks. Do you remember it, Lawrence?
Sorry, I was just amazed by this Photoshop that had been done.
Yeah, I heard the question and then it went in one ear and out the other as soon as I started considering this. So yeah, I mean, but I guess while we're here, okay, every time I zoom, it like does something weird. If they did have a flame trench, like I was saying, it could go straight across this way. That'd be weird. That would come out right where those tanks are, more like down in this direction. But the question is if they would be allowed to deposit all of that exhaust in one direction down here. So, yeah, I'm keeping an open mind that we may see something like that, but it's totally possible that it'll just be the exact same as the first launch mount, as far as looking similar to this, with some slight modifications to the actual deluge plate and possibly some sort of water system for the top of the launch mount as well too.
Agreed, and I think the OLM leg design is definitely getting a redesign. My opinion is that the static fire stand at Massie's is actually a really logical way of thinking to go for maybe the next leg design for the OLM.
Like 4 legs instead of 6?
Yes, and that would open up more space for the all the pressure waves to actually go and the heat instead of being so confined like the current OLM is.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like the legs would have to be much larger in order to fit on 4 sides like that, and still support all that weight. But not impossible. Yeah.
All right, I want to thank a bunch of recent support. Just Martin with a 20-pound super sticker says thanks for being you. Appreciate that. Callistia Lee with a $20 super chat. Awesome job as always, RGV, crew, and mods. Thanks for all the great info. Ribby with a $10 super sticker. Thank you for that. Appreciate all your support. Certainly helps keep RGV flying. Yazada says, exciting week coming up. Sure is, buddy. And I'm going to take one final question from Seabreeze. Question, speaking of Hopper, I thought there was discussion on reworking the current ship entrance gate to take the sharp bend out of it, widen it, and use it for both towers.
I'm guessing talking about widening this entrance right here. I mean, certainly, I feel like you'd have to move. Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I feel like it would make sense to move it over a little bit because it's not so difficult to make that turn. that would just require deleting this ramp right here, which they'll probably end up doing anyways, honestly. So I think the next step, once that crane is here, would be to remove all of this, if not to do it before then. But yeah, I mean, in that case, you would maybe need to move Starhopper in order to construct something like that. But I think just in general, Starhopper probably shouldn't be here. That's just my opinion.
I think that's about all the time we've got for today. I know you do have a special announcement.
Oh yeah, for the website. Give me 1 second.
It's in live comms.
Cool, great. So yeah, let me bring this up. So this is the new RGV website. So yeah, sorry, I'm reading through this. I didn't get a chance to check it beforehand. Yeah, so if you want to look around it yourself, the link is rgvaerial.org, and we'll also put that in the chat. So on the main page, you can see that most of the most recent articles, as well as easy access to the latest flyover videos and live streams. So those are up here on the side. Over on the top right is the Starbase Aerial Archive, photo archive. And this looks like you can search by year as well too, which is pretty cool. Let's see, what else do we have here? Yeah, you can sort by year. The production team has already started populating 2018 through 2022, and I guess 2023 is still in progress. Let's see, when you click into this, wow, yeah, you can see all the different. This is my first time looking at this, so Sanchez, I think these are organized by the specific week, and then you can look at individual vehicles and test articles when they appeared at certain times. Nothing for that yet. Yeah, so there's the chronological timeline of flyover images, and I think ground images as well too. And you can download in 1080p, or if you subscribe to Patreon, you can download them in 4K. And I think the website broke. Dang, you know why? Because all y'all just started getting on it. That's what happened. Y'all would do that in the middle of the live stream. That's funny. So yeah, the last thing for the website is the articles. They right now have an article explaining the Massie's test site from the air, as well as an overview of December 2023. And unfortunately, I'm not able to click on these and show you guys that right now. But hopefully the site will be back up. I think just the traffic kind of crashed it right now. But yeah, we do also have a new merch design in our merch shop, and that link is the same as before. I don't think it's included on this site. So if you guys are looking for some RGV merch, you can find it there. And oh, there we go. Got it working again. Yeah, so these are the articles explaining Massie's test site and Starship and development history. So those are pretty cool. Make sure to check those out if you guys want to. Yeah, with that, I think that pretty much covers everything. And thank you all for joining us today. And hopefully we will have a successful launch this coming week. I think Thursday is the earliest planned day. Hopefully that doesn't slip, but fingers crossed on that. In the meantime, like I said, thank you all for joining us. I will go ahead and sign off and pass this over to Lawrence.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you all of our YouTube and Patreon members out there, as well as everybody joining today. And again, it's been a great week. Hoping for a very exciting week this week. And thank you again, and enjoy the new website. And now y'all can actually go on and compare what's happened back in 2021 with the first tower to the new tower, and I'll give it over to Joe.
Right on. Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment from Zach and Darth as well. Thank you both for your time and your knowledge and sharing the show and tells and everything that RGV was able to present to us this week. Definitely a lot of exciting things going on here. Thanks for the awesome donations, support, gifts. It's been a great YouTube chat this week. Appreciate you all. And thanks to RGV for getting these photos. Thanks, Emlyn, for turning the knobs and pushing the buttons. Thanks, Mods, Rocket Prophet, and AstroGen. Appreciate you guys handling chat while I'm rounding up everything. And with that being said, most engines cut off. Hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.